Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a little bit. I've been a little busy doing some testing for the upcoming Springfest and a lot of life stuff. Haven't really had time to put anything out because I've just been, dabbling with some stuff. So, um, today I'm showing off Dragonic Overlord the End. I think this is probably, at least from my testing, this is probably the best thing that you could bring to besides like ChronoJet, this is the best thing you could probably bring to Springfest. So I've been working on this, trying to get it down to the way I like it, and yeah. So if you want to see more, you could do a like, subscribe, leave comments if you have any questions. I'll hit you with all of the ideas that I've been testing with this specific version. So starting off with the ride line, you got the one copy of Undo, your generic starter, the one copy of Bar, the one copy in the Hallam, and we're running the end in the ride line. So um, these are all pretty straightforward. You draw if you go second. If Nehalem rides over it, you could search for a grade 1. And when an Overlord rides over it, you call it from the soul. And you can Soul Blast 1 to give him and an Overlord +5. And then there's the end. Now, the end has two abilities. The first is if you have the original Dragonic Overlord and Soul, he gets +5, and he doesn't lose drive checks when he swings, which is very good, very important. And the second is you can counterblast 1, discard 2 at the end of a battle that he swings to restand him, and he loses a drive check. But if you have the Overlord and Soul, it doesn't matter. So with the new promo, we're allowed to put this in our ride deck and be on him a turn earlier, because the new promo puts the original Overlord Soul, which we'll get to when I get to the grade 2s. Um, so it feels very good to start off on this because you can start pressuring very quick, and yeah, it's a really solid card. So we're gonna go on to the grade 3s of the deck. So I have three more copies at the end for the Persona ride. I don't believe I am playing the Chalice still, if I'm correct. Yeah, I'm not playing the Chalice anymore because it is kind of a brick um, with the when you draw it, because the most of the games that you're probably going to be playing at the current moment, um, you can kind of force a Chronojet player to stay down at grade 2 because they won't want to go into grade 3 until you go into grade 3 unless you out resource them, which that's kind of the build I've centered this around, is out resourcing them. So I don't feel the Chalice is necessary. I think, if you're bound to see one more of these and it'll be fine. I don't think you need it. If you feel like there's a spot in here that you want to cut for it, you can. I just don't personally see that. And then 4 copies of the original Dragonic Overlord. So he has pretty much only one ability because we're never riding him at a Vanguard. So his other ability is when he swings at a rear guard, your opponent can't guard against it. So they have to use things like blitz orders to be able to protect rear guards if they really want to keep it. But he's pretty much here for discard fodder for the so that we can use the new promo to put him in soul and get the end fully working. So it feels a lot better to play the ratios like this. I know in the previous version you'd have like 4 copies of the end in the main deck, and then you'd just play maybe one of these in the ride deck and maybe one in the main deck. But this doesn't feel bad, like contrary to what people would think. This actually feels really good, especially because the end will always filter you 2 cards as long as you have an Overlord and Soul. So it doesn't feel bad to have that at all. Going on to the grade 2s is a big grade 2 pile. So we got 4 Burning Horn Dragon. Burning Horn is just the best beater in this deck. You'll call him to counterblast and check top 7 for an Overlord. If you didn't hit one, or you didn't hit one that you wanted, you just shuffle them all back and you countercharge 1. And then every time an Overlord swings, +5. Uh, really good. But you don't really call this super early game unless you have a counter charge form, because like I said, we're going to be staying down on grade 2 for a little bit, just to, this is only against Chronojet, I should say. If you're playing against like Ava or you're playing against I don't know, Lutetia or Youthberg, you don't have to worry too much about being down on or not or going to grade 3 first. It's not that big of a deal. It's mostly just for the Chronojet matchup, which I assume is going to be the most that I will be facing at tournaments. So, you know, don't you can put him down early against anything else. If it's Chronojet, I'd probably hold this and wait for it. But four of this is still absolutely correct. It's very important. For the promo, this is Ardor Hatchet Dragon. Oh no, come on up here. There you go. So Ardor Hatchet Dragon has a really good ability, which is he gets 5k shield if you're on Overlord. So he's a 10k blocker. Very nice. So that's a really good intercept or just discard from hand. But his other ability is on rear guard. If your opponent's at grade 3 or greater, you can kill this and then take an Overlord from your rear guard or rear guard Overlord from your drop zone and put the soul. So like I said earlier, you're going to be discarding the original Overlord for ride ups most of the time. So you call him, your opponent's at grade 3, you're at full power Overlord the end on your turn 3. If you went first and you ride up, you don't necessarily get the full power. Like you don't get the +5 and you only have one drive check the second swing. But this card is still really good. It's a very important piece to the deck. Shield is always good. We always like shield cards, but it's also just a 10k beater, which I know is like, yeah, you can see that. But normally, at least from what I've been doing, I've just been calling this down and just beating into people's rear guards with it because, they can try to get rid of it if they want to, but if they don't, if they feel like getting rid of it, they can. I normally have an extra in hand anyways. If they choose not to go after it, it's like, okay, well, thanks for leaving me a 10k shield. And then this guy's got a long name. It's Blast Artillery Dragon Brachio Force. So this card is the big reason that I'm always fine to just stay down and wait for Chronojet. So if his attack hits, I can retire him to draw a card and then kill one of your opponent's rear guards. So he breaks me even, but he also minuses my opponent by 1, which is really nice. It also gives you like a good on-hit pressure, because the general idea that most people are doing when they're playing Chronojet is they're kind of just going all in at the beginning. They're calling their swirlers, they're calling their Gungan Rams, they're calling GGs to start drawing cards. Well, you just call this and you say, hey, I'm going to swing at you, and if you let me hit, I'm killing it. And you can, dump trigger power on here too. Now they got to waste more cards from hand, so it doesn't really feel like they'll be like gaining a lot per se. Like you'll just be kind of like forcing them to lose all of their pluses to either attempt to keep their board or, because we're just going to stay down until they go to grade 3. It's just a very solid strategy overall. So 12 grade 2s. The reason we're not playing any more Nahalims is once you see the first Nahalim, you don't really need to see more of him. Because like the extra 5k that it gives to your Vanguard, it's pretty good. I mean, hey, you got the original Overlord and Soul and you're on the end. This is a 23 without a Persona Ride. That feels good. But we don't generate too much Soul to really care if we lose this or not. Unless you're playing, I think Jet and occasionally Eva. Eva will normally pick off something else, so they don't really care about this. Jet might get rid of it, but a lot of times people just don't care if you have this. So I never have felt like I needed to have an extra copies in the main deck, and I think the Brachio he does so much work that it's like it's not even worth considering running more Nahalims when he's just putting in a lot of my heavy work for me. And now the grade 1 package is a little weird, right? We got Drag Ritter Halbay. So obviously you play 4 of this card. This card's insane. He counts as 2 discard, so you can swing with the end and then counterblast 1 and just discard him. That's free. And when he's discarded, you get to, by your Vanguard's ability, you call him to the back row and he gets plus 5k power. And he's standing, by the way, so you need a booster. There you go. You got a free one. He is just a ridiculously designed card. You got to play for. You'll never really call him to early game aggress your opponent. You the bar can search him out if you need him, but you'll normally open one or draw into one, so you don't really need to go out of your way for him. The next part is the weird part. So I'm playing two of, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Madoka. We'll just go with Madoka. So he gets 5k shield if your opponent has 4 more engrave, and he gets an extra 5k shield if they have 8 or more engrave. So he's a 15k shield. It's just a nice card. Some people play 3 of it, 4 of it. I'm playing 2 of it and 1 of Gojo. Gojo says on the hit that he boosted, if it hit Vanguard, you retire him, countercharge 1. So I see a lot of people going between these two and seeing which one is the right one. From all the games I've tested, you only, I guess, care for it once. Like once you hit it once, you're like, cool, I can just keep going the rest of the game. A lot of times, like I'll even just like ride Nehalem on bar and then search for this and just call it behind because like I have most of the pieces that I'm looking for anyways. So now I have a booster. Now it's pressuring to hit more like in the early game. It's insanely good. I just don't think that it's worth playing multiples of it because you're never really going to resolve it like 4 times in the game. If you're resolving it the one time, it's just enough. Also, this is SP, so like, why would I not want to run a random SP that I pulled? And then lastly, we got the 3 regular perfect guards and the 1 order perfect guard. This feels very important against Jet right now for the guard restrict, but also like you'll still see things like Magnolia, Prison, Bastion. I think I've seen a couple of people playing which one was it? The grade 4 Nirvana. I can't remember the last part of its name, but like that's just a free perfect guard. Or especially against Jet, this is a hey, I can just perfect guard your Vanguard, and that gets around your guard restrict, and now your next stage turn doesn't feel as good. I think it's definitely worth owning one of these. I think it's very important. Um, yeah, that's that's all I have to say on those on the Sentinel part of the deck. And then the trigger lineup is kind of up to you, except for a couple things. So over trigger, you have to play the Dragon Empire one. I know there was somebody saying that like the Cray Elemental one can do like a lot more for the deck, and I'm no. This gives you an extra Vanguard attack, which in this deck is horrifying because your opponent normally plans around you just doing 4 swings a turn, right? So normally if your opponent's planning around you doing 4 swings a turn, they probably would have had in mind if you hit like 100 million on 2 different units. They'd be like, yep, I kind of had a plan for that. I was going to take one anyways. This says, hey, I have more chance to hit crits. it's just really good. I wouldn't think of running the Cray Elemental one, but you know, some people do. 4 of the insult crits, and then 4 regular crits. 8 crit is just the way to go. If you have a crit on your Vanguard, your opponent is normally nervous. I mean, that's how people felt when Bavasvagra was the boogeyman of the format. People were like, well, she can kind of just kill you out of nowhere. So having a Vanguard that can swing twice with crits is pretty terrifying. It's still, since the dawn of time, the dawn of this game, it's just been a very good strategy. I've chosen 3 draw. Some people are playing fronts. I used to play fronts a lot too, but this is for 2 things. The first is this gives me hand advantage early on, which is good again for grade 2 gaming against the opponents. But it also says, hey, did you draw your copy of Ardor Hatchet Dragon or your original Dragonic Overlord? No? Alright, you have 3 more chances to draw. It's pretty good. Obviously, 4 heals is the last bit. I mean, but I think this is probably the better 3 of trigger to run than the fronts right now. If you really want to play fronts, you can play fronts. Again, I just think this is the absolute, like, I don't see a reason to play fronts right now. Ever since they've added the draw triggers with the 5k shield, I feel like most decks may as well run them versus the front. If you already have like a issue of overdrawing, like absolutely go play your fronts, but like if you don't, man, just go for it. It's free cards to hand. So that is the profile. It's a very, I'm sure like it looks kind of standard, but I've been really trying to like get this deck down to a spot where I want it. So if I feel like playing it, or if I go to a competition and play it, it'll feel good. Because the goal is to obviously perform somewhat well with the deck you bring. Yeah, this I think this is the most optimal version of the end that you can play right now. And yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Again, like, comment, subscribe. You want more? I got more coming up. I got a bunch of stuff in. We got a lot of things that I've been testing for, especially Granfia. I've been testing Granfia like nonstop. Whew, let me tell you. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.